Hi, so now in this lecture, I'm going to tell you about the first module of TEFL or TESOL if you are doing masters specifically. I'm not talking about other certification, but if you're interested in masters, the first module would be the training methodologies of teaching. So the different methodologies you will be knowing about. So that's the first module. Check out the audio now further. There was communicative method. So every method that was introduced has its own pros and cons. For instance, the grammar translation method was more about the context was more on teaching the nouns, the verbs, the teaching of the vocabulary drills. It was more of the translation was followed, where every text was translated in the native language in order for a better understanding. Then in the next method, the direct method, it was again the instructions were given, but then here the focus was more on the target language. They were emphasized more to speak the target language, less usage of their native language. I mean English, everything was instructed more in English, and the repetitions, reading of the passages, and they were for emphasize the students were emphasized to repeat the passages in the target language. After that, the method that I mentioned was the physical response method. Here it's like a similar way a mother tongue is taught. In this method, the students were told to mimic and imitate the instructor, the asking of questions. If they were told to sit down, bring your pen forward and write. So questions were used, and they quickly adapted to that method. They started asking questions and form commands. Then there is Suggestopedia method, where music was used, and an environment similar to home was created, where the classrooms were more like living rooms, and they were listening to music and learning the passages in the rhythm of the music. But it was quite convenient for the students to bring them in a calm and composed state, where there is a learning environment suitable like home. After one method that I forgot to mention, that I didn't tell you about, was the communicative method. The communicative method is known to be the latest and the most opted method. It was introduced in 1970s. It's now also used, and it's far more popular, because here it's more about the language is not taught, but the language itself is taught. Here the scenarios are created where the students use dialogues, and it's more focused on the 3 P's: presentation, practice, and production in the classroom. Then one method, audiolingual method, was also there, where the visual aids were used in order to teach. Here also the target language English was used, but more of the visual aids were used in order to implement the instructions. And the most of the methods are quite apt, and they can still be used, because the lesson plans that are formulated, that are designed, are based on the personality and needs of the student. So every method has its own pros and cons. Now also some of the grammar translation method can be used in order to teach grammar structures, or any other method like the direct method can be used, where the theoretical explanation of the grammar concepts will be more apt. It cannot be said that only communicative method is used these days, or The eclectic method nowadays has become more popular, where every bit of a strategy is used by the teacher after analyzing the needs of the student for a better output or for a better result to be gained out of the student. So today I mentioned all the methodologies that were used for a better understanding of what all teaching methodologies were used in the past. So thank you.
Hi, so in this lecture, I'm going to give you some more details about the second module of TEFL or TESOL, which is the second language acquisition. Now, you'll be knowing about the second language acquisition in this second module. So, again, please watch or hear the audio further. Thank you.
Hi, in today's module, I'm going to tell you about the second language acquisition. So, when you're learning a second language or more foreign languages, it's called a second language acquisition. So, before you go ahead learning any new language, it's very important to understand that we all have different backgrounds. For example, there are children who starts learning more than one languages simultaneously when they are born. So they are called simultaneous language learners. Then there are sequential learners who start learning a language later in life. Then there are still another type of learners who are who are removed from the family language learning and put into a different learning environment. So there are various environments and conditions and needs before we start learning any language, and taking that into consideration, the methods of teaching would also be different. Like, for example, a young learner who has started learning and that's his first language, he doesn't have much of the worldly experience and the maturity to inhibit that language. And then there are adult learners who learn with less difficulty, sometimes difficulty, but the main problem that they face is with expressing the thoughts. We gotta take care of all these factors before any new language. We start training to the learning environment that's need to be provided should be very apt and appropriate to the learners. So there are various second learners who learn different languages without a teacher, without book, or without classroom trainings as well, and they have more success with it. That also comes to the same thing, that their needs and their way of learning is different. They come in contact with their regular needs and interact with the native speakers, and they learn better that way. So there are various models also. Mr. Crash's model, 5 models that are based on learning a second language. The first one is where the rules are not grammar rules are not taken into consideration, but the fluency is. Then after that, there is the next step is monitoring, where the things are where the feedback is given and the things are monitored, the language is monitored. Then the next step is where the natural environment is provided, where again the order that is being taught in the classroom is not taken into consideration. Then the next step is where this emphasis is given on the structure of the language. Then after that, the effective filter, where the needs of the learner is taken into consideration. Various types of models have been developed, all emphasizing that we need to understand the needs and the background, where the person is coming from, the age specifically, before we start taking up teaching any language, especially English language. You're talking about the TEFL and TESOL. So we got to take care of the needs. Thank you. that was it in this module. Stay tuned for the next lecture.
Hi, so this session, this lecture or video is about the third module, which is a very important. Let's not go with the numbering of the modules. I'm going to tell you the different important modules that can come under it, so that you are aware of it, and you are prepared for going for the certification without any confusion. So the grammar is also a very important module, so please go ahead and check out the audio further for more details about this module. Thank you.
Hi, in this module or in this lecture of TEFL and TESOL guidelines and pointers, this course especially, I'm going to tell you about the modules that if you're going to be thorough with, you'll easily be able to get a certificate of TEFL and TESOL, which is an essential requirement if you are interested in teaching abroad. So that this module is based on grammar. You got to thorough your grammar rules. No matter we are not teaching grammar in a grammar translation method where all the strict rules need to be followed, like a prescription. But you gotta be thorough with the grammar rules, especially the parts of speech. All the 8 parts of speech, you should know about them and the rules related to them, like noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, adjective, preposition, conjunction, interjection. You should be thorough with the 8 parts of speech and the rules. Apart from it, articles, gerunds, then modal verbs, the conditionals, the 3 rules of conditionals. If when we use if, when there is a condition. So you got to be prepared with your grammar, if you're going for this TEFL or TESOL course. The grammar is no doubt, it's more important nowadays, and the communicative approach is used. So how will you teach grammar in a communicative method? You can use the grammar translation method. Yes, it will be easier to convey the rules, but you got to make it more interactive and communicative by using colorful markers. Maybe when you're teaching noun, verb, and adjective, you can use colorful markers to mark them so that students are able to understand and interpret it better. Then you can use examples more, and even encourage them to give you examples after understanding the forms, the tenses, especially the formulas, the 12 tenses. You should know about them. That is also a part of grammar. Then you can teach them with a lot of examples, and then use formulas so that they can frame sentences. Grammar is nothing but it is about knowing the word and how to use it. We get to know the structure of the sentence and how to form a sentence. Then in the communicative way of teaching, you can use as I said, colorful markers. Then you can even do role plays. Then in the visual aid is a very good way, because students are mostly visual learners. Try not to use the formula when you're teaching the tense before. Before that, you can explain them with examples. Then they'll be able to inculcate those formulas and frame sentences better. So thank you. So the grammar module is also one of the important aspects that you need to know about and thorough yourself. Buy a grammar book and before you go for a TEFL or TESOL certification. That will also make you prepared. Thank you.